why are we so quick to call the lynch mob on something that promotes itself as natural, and yet we turn a blind eye to all of the myriad, synthetic compounds, supplements, pharmaceuticals that people are just, will willy-nilly take without doing appropriate due diligence. But yet when something markets itself as natural, I mean, that's where, we raise an eyebrow. It's sort of, it evokes to me that saying that it's like today, just eating healthy, for somebody who, adopts a more healthy dietary pattern or lifestyle, they're instantly labeled as dieting or having an eating disorder or something like that. It's like, no, even though the norm has become so dysfunctional, it at the end of the day is dysfunction when you look at average just, health, mental health, physical health, spiritual health statistics.
The best example I could give is MySpace, the one that I would say I know the most about, which is fitness. Okay, so I'll stick to that. If you look at the fitness space and the information that comes in from the fitness space, so I go on, social media, or I go on, a search engine, and I want to learn more about becoming fit. Okay, the content creators, whether it's blogs, articles, commercials, videos, clips, whatever, all of that is a market, and all of that has to fund something, right? Nobody does that stuff for free. I get that. The profit makers, or the way to make money around that are largely products. They got good margins. People repeat buy. Like if I give out just information, that's harder to monetize. Like if you create a podcast that is just great information and you don't sell anything, your hope is it gets big enough to where advertisers will want to pay you. But you're not selling anything, right? If I make a product, I've got some really good potential to profit. So anyway, my point with that is, so much of the information is by nature dedicated towards generating some kind of revenue. And so we get this skew of what's important. We get this distorted view of what's important. So when you ask the average person, how much of a role does supplements play? How much of a role do, whatever play in your fitness? They'll typically give it a larger, or at least their actions will show that they give it a larger percentage of impact than it actually has. So the reality is, all the boring stuff, exercise, right? Get good sleep, just drink water. That's like 95% of everything you're going to get out of fitness, or probably more. But if you looked at everything and read everything, it wouldn't look that way. It would look like it's supplements. It would look like it's these new, kind of crazy techniques and new discovered whatever compounds. But it's just not. It's just because it's it's no different than. I'll give you an example. Like I managed gyms for a long time for a living, and the amount of people in a gym, this is already a self-selection bias, of people with a six-pack is rare. It's rare in a gym to see someone with a six-pack, let alone in the real world. But if you go on social media, you think everybody's got six-pack abs. And if I'm always on social media, my view on how many people are ripped is severely distorted. So my view on what's effective and what works and where I should place my value and where I should place my time and energy is going to be skewed and distorted. So it's difficult. One of my goals with what I do, with what we do, is to try and shift that. Is to try to create enough information, enough noise to where people get a little bit of a counter perspective and change that. But I think that's why. I mean, if we told if people, I remember Dr. Seeds is he's a doctor, but he's also a researcher. He's one of my favorite people to ask about things like peptides and stuff like that.
Yeah, we've had him on the show.
Love him. Him and I were talking about walking for 10 minutes after meals. And he said, Sal, he goes, if everybody just got up and walked for 10 minutes after eating, we would probably solve the majority of type 2 diabetes issues. That's it. Like, even if it wasn't a majority, even if it was a 40%, like, is there a medication that solves 40% of type 2? No.
And why might that be the case?
Oh, the insulin sensitizing, blood sugar controlling effects of getting a muscle to contract and relax while there's blood sugar floating around. Is profound. I mean, 10 minutes of walking after breakfast, lunch, and dinner has probably more of an impact than an hour of walking done at another time in the day. I might be off a little bit, but it's that much more impactful just to move. There was one study, I think I might have seen you actually do a clip about it, in fact, where they had people eat and then they just did heel raises. So they were seated. They didn't even get up and walk. They just flexed their calves a little bit. And there was like a significant reduction in their blood sugar, which is, by the way, is so funny. You know those little, I used to make fun of these machines. Like they look like little cycles, but they're real small, and you put them on the floor. And
I see ads on TV for them.
You just pedal your feet.
They look ridiculous.
Yeah, I used to think about like, this is stupid. That's not working out. Now I'm like, it's probably a great idea. Like do that for 10 minutes after you eat and you'll just like significantly improve your blood sugar.
And how does this work? Is this due to some sort of insulin independent mechanism where activity causes muscles to suck up sugar from the blood, or how does it work?
100%. Yeah, I think the analogy I like to use is like a sponge. Like you squeeze and you're sucking up more of that glycogen, but there's a GLUT4 receptor that gets activated when muscles are contracted and released. The more intense the workout, the higher that happens. So I've heard some people say like, no, do like 5 minutes of intense exercise after you eat. And I'm always like, no one's going to do that. Like just go for a walk.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I want to go back to that study. First of all, it was, the data was from the 1980s. So it was just, it was about 40 years, 50 years worth of data.
Wow.
Hey, if you liked that video, you need to check out this one here, and I'll see you there.